Welcome ladies and gentlemen, my name's Chronic, your host here on this Destiny 2 video, and today we're going to be taking a look at my high energy fire hunter build for PvP. In a nutshell, this build uses high energy fire for weapon damage boost as well as a couple other charged with light mods. The new artifact mods that are available this season for rifles and pulse rifles specifically, and the hunter subclass way of the Sharpshooter, practice makes perfect, knock them down, for a great combination of great things to make a very good PvP build. And throughout the video, you'll be seeing pictures of a build document that I created for this video and for this build. If you wanted to get your hands on this build document, all you have to do is head over to my Discord server, linked in the description down below, and in the channel #spreadsheets docs. Around the date that this came out, you'll be able to find a link to this doc as well as all my other spreadsheets and docs. And of course, thank you to my buddy Zoomzy for capturing the gameplay for this build. You can find a link to his Twitch in the description down below, who uses a controller on PC and still gets a 4.0 KAD. Go check him out. The last thing I want to say before we get started with the build is that I recently accepted a sponsorship from GG Gamer Subs as a powder-based energy supplement, which is basically your cheaper, healthier, zero sugar, keto-friendly, no headaches, no crash version of your energy drinks like Rockstar, Monster, and stuff like that. If you wanted to get 10% off anything from Gamer Subs, use code Chronic. If you want to get some free samples, check out their website. Also use Chronic US free for free shipping in United States for those free samples. Alright, moving on to the main part of this build, let's go ahead and take a look at the specs. Starting up with the class and subclass, we have the Hunter Solar Wave, the Sharpshooter, which is very important. A couple perks in that subclass, very important for this build. I like to use Swarm Grenade, Marksman Dodge, and High Jump. As for the guns, my personal favorite is going to be Vigilance Wing, Fellwinter's Lie, and Hammerhead combo. For your primary weapon choice, as long as you're using a pulse rifle, you're getting the most out of this build possible. You can also use auto rifles like Forward Path or Gnawing Hunger if you would like. Just keep in mind that 2 out of the 3 artifact mods we're going to be using are for rifles, and the last one is specific to pulse rifles. Although not really that important, it is just the loader. For your special weapon, as long as you're having a good sniper or shotgun, that's what I recommend. And finally, for your heavy, just use something that makes sense. I use Hammerhead because I like the weapon and it also gives you headshots, which is very important for this build. And if you're looking for recommendation on any one of these legendary weapons, I have the PvP gun spreadsheet linked on this doc so you can take a look at all of my recommendations. Moving on, let's talk about the armor, probably the most important part of this build. Now, there are a bunch of different things you can switch around on these armor pieces, for example, these seasonal mods, or change things over to auto rifles, but this is just how I personally built it. First of all, for my exotic choice on the headpiece, I like to use Knucklehead Radar. Now, this may seem like an odd choice, being able to see your radar while aiming down sights. Not a lot of people use this, but it is great synergy with this build. So generally, this is a defensive build with pulse rifles or auto rifles, aiming down sight lines, holding cover. So being able to aim down sights, maintain your radar to be able to see enemies around you will allow you to have a better chance at a first shot on enemies and a better control on that first shot. So using Knucklehead Radar is very good for defensive play. As far as the mods on the headpiece, I like to use Recovery and 2 Scatter Targeting. Scatter Targeting, very important for this season. For the arms, which have to be Void for stacks on stacks, I like to use Recovery, Double Pulse Rifle Loader, and Stacks on Stacks. Which, if you've never heard of Stacks on Stacks, it allows you to get an extra charge of Charge with Light anytime you gain a Charge with Light. However, it also takes away 10 recovery, which means you really have to double down on getting your recovery up, which needs to be at least an 8. For your chest piece, I use Recovery, Double Rifle Unflinching, and High Energy Fire. This seasonal mod allows you to do an extra 20% weapon damage whenever you're charged with light and consumes on a kill, which allows for much easier, much more consistent 2-burst kills with Cold Denial, allowing you to go on absolute rampages. For the leg piece, I use Recovery, Traction, and Taking Charge. You can swap out Traction for Special Scavenger if you are not using a controller. Taking Charge is a seasonal mod that allows you to get charged with light just by picking up an Orb of Light, and with Stacks on Stacks you get 2 charges. And finally, for your class item, which has to be Arc, I use Recovery, Invigoration, and Swift Charge. Swift Charge is an Arc mod which allows you to get charged with light from rapid pulse rifle kills, which is a very inconsistent mod. I think there might be some bugs. Sometimes you get it on double kills, sometimes you get a double kill and then a third kill 30 seconds later, and then you get it. It's a weird perk. Using Invigoration allows you to get the extra perk on that for more pulse rifle ammo. And Invigoration just fits, you had 1 point, might as well. Moving on, let's talk about the gameplay. The way you use this build is often just as important as how you build the build. So as I mentioned before, this build is a standard defensive hunter build, which uses pulse rifles and auto rifles as your main weapon, and as such, you must maintain good awareness and use of your surrounding cover while maintaining good sightlines. As I mentioned before, you must get your high energy fire from your charge with light to get weapon damage bonuses. Using the artifact mods from this season really help out pulse rifles and auto rifles, making them much more competitive against hand cannons. And finally, we're very specifically using Hunter Wave the Sharpshooter subclass so we can take advantage of some pretty nice perks. Namely, knock them down for better stability and handling on kills, and practice makes perfect. That gives you super energy on headshots for getting easy 3 supers a match. And that's why we're using pulse rifles, auto rifles, high fire rate weapons that you can get a lot of headshots, because practice makes perfect, and knock them down will give you a lot of great bonuses combined with all of the artifact mods and all the charge of light, which is why this build works so well now, and it didn't really work that well as before. And finally, just wanted to touch on a couple different alternatives to this build. As I mentioned before, there are a bunch of different weapon alternatives. Just make sure you're using the appropriate mod changes where applicable. The subclass is very important for this build if you're using Hunter. As I mentioned before, practice makes perfect, knock him down, very good synergetic choice. The exotic Knucklehead Radar can be swapped out to a Worm Husk if you prefer the healing over pre-aiming corners with your radar up. And in general, you can use most of this build on any class. You know, high energy fire, stacks on stacks, all of these bonuses are going to be available on any class. The artifact mods for pulse rifles, however, the ability, like I said before, to have practice makes perfect and knock them down with those headshots is a great synergetic choice, but outside of that can be used on any class. And that's pretty much it. This is not really that big of a complicated build. It is pretty straightforward. I used pretty much all of the points on most of the armor pieces, so it is a pretty fleshed out build, and I gotta say these seasonal mods like high energy fire are big as a game changer. So if you're not using things like high energy fire in PvP, you are handicapping yourself. And that also goes for artifact mods. They're very cheap for a very large bonus, so you really have to vary up your loadout based on these seasonal mods available. But yeah, that is going to be the end of the video. Hope you guys did enjoy, and if you did, make sure you check out my other builds that I have made in the past. I have a playlist on my channel if you want to check that out, and of course check out the build docs on my Discord with all of the different build docs and spreadsheets all listed there as well. But yeah, that's going to be the end of it. Hope you guys did enjoy. My name's been Chronic, and I'll see you guys on the next one.